Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of First Impressions on the Scratch Track podcast, presented by the Dude and Grim Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am Dude.
And I am Grim. And today it is time to turn on, tune in, and drop out with Dropout Boogie, the latest album by the Black Keys, Dropout Boogie.
Which is based off the Led Zeppelin song Boogie with Stu.
I disagree. I think it's
with
actually,
help with,
dude. And I was
with Stu with King Gizzard.
Yeah, Stu McKenzie. I was actually gonna say it's interesting because we may be talking about the Black Keys, who did a cover of Captain Beefheart's cover of a song. Now, off the same album that Captain Beefheart's song was on, there was also a song on that album called Dropout Boogie, my man. And I wish they would have covered it on this one because it's such a good song and it kind of goes with the whole like aesthetic of this, I think.
Yeah, and I was completely making that up about Boogie with Stu. But yeah,
it fits for me.
Yeah, in an interview that I saw with or heard with Dan Auerbach, he said that they started thinking about the title and everything, and he was like, well, the reason they also kind of went with it along with Captain Beefheart, he's like, well, we were both dropouts, so it just kind of made sense.
Yeah, and, but one thing I love about it is how they play on that with the cover. Like, one, Patrick Carney looks like the cook at a high school cafeteria, and he's got this big pot of like beans or something, and he's having a smoke. And then Auerbach looks like a janitor, and he's sitting there smoking too. And I'm like, the whole thing is just, it is so classic. Like, that cover is a great cover.
They just fit the part, playing the part.
It's funny. It's just funny. I mean, you can't knock it. Yeah.
So I guess, dude, we did a previous episode on King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard, who had just released their 20th album.
Yeah.
This is their 11th studio album. I mean, they've been a band now for 20 years.
And by any standards, that's still a lot of albums.
That's a lot of albums, man. Yeah. A lot of albums.
And they've gone a lot of different places, I think, within what they've done. Kind of stuck, for the most part, I would say true to how they started. But that's what
They're not rapping.
No, but that's what I think is cool. How even in this one, they do some things that really come back to the foundations of it. I like that.
Yeah, and I think I watched an interview with Pat, and he said basically he was like, this album he felt like was kind of like a mesh of all their sounds. He even said like the last song,
I can see that.
Didn't I Love You? He was like, yeah. He was like, I feel like that song could actually been on our first record. He felt like it would have fit there. And now I think one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is, they're obviously, I mean, if you had to sum up their sound, is blues rock. I mean, they're a blues rock band, right?
They got kind of poppy in a couple spots, or more poppy, but yeah, that's really the heart of it.
They did. I mean, there's definitely, songs off Brothers, and I think, to me, El Camino, I listened to that the other day.
Even more so. Dude, Gold on the Ceiling and Lonely Boy.
Felt real poppy. But everything, here's the thing. Like, every song on that album is just, it's catchy.
Every song is a hit.
Every song is a hit, but it really is. Like, you could pretty much every song on that album, you're like, wow, you could they could put that out as a single. Like, I just felt like every song on that album is really catchy. I didn't fit with this album. I think overall, I like this album. I think it's good. There's not a lot of songs that I would say just hooked me. Where I was like, oh, there is this poppiness to it, or there are these catchy parts. There are no,
if there is one, it's Wild Child. I mean,
sure,
that's
and that was
the one that to me
single
sounds like Gold on the Ceiling and all that. And so when I heard that one originally, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really for me, because I really loved Delta Cream. I thought that was a great album, the way they kind of returned everything. But the thing about this album is, as it goes on, it becomes much more like that.
Sure.
There isn't, I didn't feel like,
I agree with that.
Besides Wild Child, and even to a smaller, lesser extent, Your Team Is Looking Good, but I also just felt like that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know? But those ones, I guess, were the most, and I felt like a lot of the other stuff was really kind of in that sort of same like returning to blues vein.
Sure. Well, I think one thing about their sound that's sort of changed and evolved over the years. Obviously, when you're a younger band, you don't have the resources, you don't have the money, the finances, and everything. Your recording equipment, your recording style, methods, all that stuff. It starts off and it's a little rougher around the edges, I guess you could say.
Because that's what you got, right?
That's what you got. Yeah. And their first handful of albums definitely have that. Then, all of a sudden they get bigger, more prominent, and you can see their productions, the production side of it. They still can have a raw, nasty sound, but the production is very clean.
It is.
Is what I find in
and
their,
one thing,
sort of their
one thing
stuff.
I like is their first two albums were recorded in Pat Carney's basement of like whatever house he was renting and living in at the time. And now their albums are recorded at Easy Eye Sound, which is Dan Auerbach's studio in Nashville. So, like the last Dr. John album was recorded there. There's been a lot of stuff. I think Ray LaMontagne did an album there. There's a lot of people have recorded there, and it's like a legit awesome studio.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's pretty nice.
Yes, it's probably not like Pat Carney's basement or even when they recorded in the Rubber Factory. Right.
So one thing with sort of how they recorded this, now with Delta Cream, they recorded that very quickly. I think they said they did it like in the
couple
interview
days
I was
or
watching,
something, right?
Yeah, like one day or a couple days. So he said that Dan said they were very excited, like, to get back in the studio because it was like, man, they just did that so quick, and they pretty much knocked this one out. So he said they blocked out a few weeks in their calendar. A lot of the songs, he said that when they recorded them, they did a bunch of them in one take. It's just
wow.
It's just one.
That's
it's just
awesome.
one take. And he said he was like, yeah, and they're not perfect. There's screw ups and mess ups, but he's like, we've never been a band that sort of chases perfection. He's like,
and that's what makes it real. That's what people liked about him. Yeah. And I will say, you can't help with them making the comparison to the White Stripes. You just can't. And I'm sorry, like, that's just how it is. You got two bands that are both two-piece bands that do very much like Delta
Strong
Blues inspired.
We have
rock.
Ohio versus Michigan. Like,
yeah. I do have to say, as much as I love the White Stripes and think what they did is awesome, in a lot of ways, I kind of like the Black Keys music better because I think Dan Auerbach's voice is not as sharp and it works better with the blues. And he's okay with playing sloppy, like the way that the guys play that he listened to, like Junior Kimbo and R.L. Burnside, like all those, and way before that too. But like he plays more like those guys play to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, one of the things that I love so much, especially I like it on the later albums, but on the early albums when they are playing just some deep darkness, his voice is just so, the way he just kind of screams and like it's so guttural, man. It just but it sounds more authentic to me, Oh my god, it's amazing. It really is great.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. They recorded this, and actually in an interview I was watching with Patrick, he said that they've already started work on the next album.
Oh, that's cool. I see why. So, I mean, it takes a while after they get this done. Right. They're just sitting around.
Yeah. And so on this album, they actually had, usually, the Black Keys, as far as the recording goes, has been, it's been them too.
With the exception of Delta Cream.
Yes.
Yeah.
And typically they've been writing a lot of their songs as well. Now, I believe on Brothers, Danger Mouse does get co-writing credit on a few songs. This album has Greg Cartwright of The Raining Sound and then Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Yeah.
So they were guest musicians. Now, Patrick also, he did allude, though, that on this next album that they're working on, there is going to be, I think, more people coming in, so more guest musicians. So definitely look out for that.
Man.
Yeah, I think it is too. Now, I will say there was a part of me that was kind of hoping that I would love to hear them go back and do an album that's a real stripped down version, just them two again, minimal production. Not that they're, they go crazy production, but their stuff is very layered now, right? And I don't think they overproduce. I don't think they overthink things.
But I know what you mean. Yeah.
The polishedness. It would be cool just to see them because that's how I got into them. And when I my first live DVD of them, it's just them two on stage, man.
Yeah.
And the sound that those two guys can make is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the whole bit of it, right? I mean, yeah, that
was it. All right. So obviously I think, what was your, I don't know. I kind of said I thought this was a good album.
Yeah. I did
I've listened to it a few times. I don't think blown away by anything. It's 10 songs, 34 minutes. So it's a quick, accessible, easy listen. Where, what are your thoughts? Where do you, I don't know if I'd say where you rank this, but will this make your rotation? How do you feeling about it?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know right now, because I feel like we always got a bunch of stuff to listen to, courtesy of the Dude and Grim Show, produced by Mr. IVST. But I think probably, a little more. I'll be honest, and I don't want to give away my scratch someday now, but you can quote me on it. It's probably going to be Wild Child. Okay. So I'll just start it at number 2 and just kind of go from there.
Okay.
Not that I don't like it, but it's just not what I'm looking for when I turn them on.
I gotcha. Will you be picking this up on vinyl?
Nah, I'm not going to say no, but it's certainly not on my short list.
Yeah, you'll probably be getting Delta Cream before this.
Yes.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Bless you. All right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, I actually thought I pre-ordered this on vinyl. It hasn't shown up yet, and I can't find the confirmation anywhere. So, I'm not sure if it'll happen or not, but we'll see.
You may not get the pink pre-order version.
Actually, and that's what kind of annoyed me is that when I was going to pre-order it, the pink version wasn't even available yet. The black version was the one that was available. And then they came out with the pink one. And I was like, man, come on, you're killing me here.
Well, if it doesn't show up, you sounds like you may have a second chance. Because I think the pink one's still available.
Yeah, the Pink Panther version. Yeah,
I did look, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Grim. I mean, I think...
with that, yeah.
Dropout Boogie. All right, guys. Well, if you're Black Keys fans, we may have another Black Keys full review scratch coming up of one of their albums. And let's just say, we won't give it away, but let's just say it's an album before Brothers.
Yep. So
say that.
Go ahead and do the thing so you can be notified.
Mm-hmm. And if you like Brothers, we do have a full review and scratch of that. So give it a search, give it a listen, give it a look. All right?
Yeah.
Wraps it up. All right.
Time to go.
Time to go. The Dude and Grim Show.
Scratch the Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE. And the Tims. TIMNZ. Copyright 2022. The Dude and Grim Show.